Hey there, Joel here, and welcome to my channel Math World. Today we are going to start a new chapter, and that is Fundamental Unit of Life. This is a chapter of class 9 science subject, and before I explain you the entire content of it, let's roll the intro. What do we mean by fundamental unit of life? We understand the word life means something that is living. Fundamental, you have the fundamental rules or fundamental values of life are nothing but the core value that you have, and some of people or some of the great leaders have a certain core value of theirs which they believed in throughout their life. That is something that means fundamental, something that is very the basic and which is very important. So here in science subject, when we are learning about fundamental unit of life, we are trying to understand in a physical sense, as an individual, as an organism of living being, what is that which is very important, the fundamental part of this entire living organism. That is what we are going to understand in this chapter. And I'm sure you must have also studied about this in class 8 or 7, and some of the things that we have already learned. Let's just give you a recap of that. Okay, so there is a boy, and that person can be you, okay, and is wondering what is a cell. So that fundamental unit of life that we are going to deal with is nothing but a cell. Understanding a cell. So what is a cell? And can think of a prison cell, which you must have seen in movies and so. So how does this word come into play? Cell means a prison cell. Cell is nothing but a small compartment. Something that is very small will be called as a cell. Okay, and do you know that this scientist by name Robert Hooke in 1665, we are in 2020 now, in 1665 he analyzed a piece of the champagne bottle cork that is taken, and then he analyzed that and he saw those tiny little small compartments that he observed, and he called it cell. Did he observe a real cell? No, just the idea of what is a cell, and he said that this can be a cell, a small compartment. Okay, then if you see a picture over here, 1 sec, and you can consider the entire wall as an organism, and those bricks that are there are nothing but cells. So a number of cells together make up an organism. Just the cells. As of now, we'll consider that it is just cells that make up an organism, but we will, in the course of this chapter, we're going to learn a little bit more about it. So, bricks in a building and cells in a living organisms are the basic structural units. So the bricks that are used in making the wall and cells in an organism are the basic structure. Okay, here I have an image of a cell. Okay, these little compartments are cells, and cell is nothing but a Latin word for a little room, a small compartment. That's the meaning. So I hope you are able to understand just this much from this time that you have spent with me to understand what is a cell. Okay, now Here I have a picture of an onion cell, okay, and it is nothing but a peel of an onion is taken, stained it a little bit with a color that is blue, and then you have, then you observe it under a microscope, and if you do that, this is how an onion peel will look like. So what is the meaning of an onion peel? A small thin layer of onion is taken and stained and observed, okay. So what are the things that we can learn from here? These structures look similar to each other. That means every cell that is there in the onion looks similar to each other. Then together they form a big structure like an onion bulb. So the entire onion is formed with the help of so many millions of tiny cells like this. Then the cells of an onion peel will all look the same regardless of the size of the onion. So no matter how big is the onion, that means if it is a small onion or a big onion, the cell structure will always remain the same, just the number of cells will increase based on the size. Then the small structures are the basic building units of an onion bulb and are called as cells. So all these small compartments like bricks, whatever you can see in the image, are nothing but cells. Okay, so just extra knowledge for you that there are different kinds of microscopes, and from the simplest one to a very complex level. So whatever you want to observe, okay, the cells that you want to observe cannot be seen under a simple microscope. That means if I want to take some cells of mine and very complex level, I want to see them, then some microscope might not be able to show you. So we start from the simplest magnification. That means you just magnify a little bit to a place where you are magnifying it 50, 100, 500 times and then observing it. The previous picture that I told you of a cell, the cell is not so big, right? It's a tiny little structure. So the zooming, the magnification that is done on those cells is tremendous, and you need such gadgets to see those cells. Then let us understand what is the meaning of unicellular organisms. The word uni, okay, U-N-I, means one. Cellular means cell. So any organism which has one, okay, this becomes two, sorry. Any organism which has one cell, okay, will be called as unicellular organism. Okay, are those organisms which have one cell, simple. And then example of amoeba. I'll just show you a few pictures. Okay, so these are single cell organism. That means just one cell which make up the entire organism, nothing much. Okay, can we say we are single cell organism? Do you think this entire body structure is just one cell? No, right? So we belong to the next category, and that is multicellular organism. Multi means what? Many. Cellular means cells, so many cell organisms. Okay, so animals, fungi, plants, these are examples of multicellular organisms. Please, just because I've shown a picture of a dog, that does not mean only dogs are multicellular. Any animal that you consider will be a multicellular organism. Any plant that you consider will be a multicellular organism. So I hope this part is clear. What is the meaning of unicellular? What is the meaning of multicellular? In the unicellular, the body work that is done, right? Normally what we do, we eat food, okay? That food needs digestion. There are so many other processes that take place. So we require those many cells to work, Okay, in a unicellular organism, it is a very simple basic structure that they will just engulf food, digest it, their body enzymes only will digest it. So a simple process. Okay, so that's why their body is unicellular. One cell, the entire organism is done. Okay, now here are a few examples of different cells that are there in our body. Okay, there is a nerve cell, muscle cell, bone cells, gland cells, blood cells, reproductive cells. So if you look, you can see a number of different types of cells, right? And what did I initially tell you? I said cells are nothing but they look same, right? They're same structure that make up an organism. Then how are these different? Now, I also told you that cells make up the organism, and I said initially let us consider that, but we are still advanced level, right? So what happens is the entire nervous system will have one kind or one type of a cell. Okay, now what is the function, what is the purpose of nerve cells? It is the purpose assigned to it. Like for example, a nerve cell helps in the connection, like the sending of the electrical signals. Now if I want to move this finger of mine, I can immediately move it, right? How is it happening? There is a control and coordination that takes place. So a certain kind of a cell is required to do that job. Now simple, I can give an example that, say for example, you want to draw, okay, a scenery, and then you draw some plants and then some mountains, and then I want to paint them. Now when I want to paint, I need colors, right? I can't say I want to paint and then use pencil. A certain kind of a job requires a certain kind of a tool. Same way, a certain kind of a job in the human body requires a certain kind of a tool or a certain kind of a cell to work that. Okay, so that's the reason you have different kinds of cells. Okay, why do we have different shape of a cells? That I have already told, based on the work that is assigned, all this design and is structured. Okay, so here I have a picture of a very magnified image of an animal cell and a plant cell. See how they are different, but some of the things, if you look at it very carefully, some of the things will be slightly same in the animal cell and as well as in plant cell. Okay, so we are going to study a little more in detail about these different types of things that are there inside the cell as well. So just have a look at this image for now, and then we'll, as we progress, we'll understand a little bit more on it. Okay, now a cell is the smallest unit capable of performing life function. So what is it telling you? It is the smallest unit, okay, which is able to do some function assigned to it. Whatever it is designed to do some work, it will do it. Maybe you take in oxygen and there is a process that is required to convert it into carbon dioxide. Okay, that the conversion, all that intake will happen in the lungs, but there is still some work, right? It has to be used somewhere. Where is this oxygen getting used in our body? Did we even think about it? We just breathe regularly in and day out, and we don't even know. So there is someone working right inside our body, and those small unit is cell. Shape and size is related to the specific function they perform. I've already told you, whenever there is a certain function to be done, there's a certain kind of a cell that is required. Okay, then it has the capacity to perform certain basic functions. Okay, contains components and they are called as organelles. Okay, now inside your body the cells are there. Inside the cell there are something called as organelles. Okay, what are organelles? They are more smaller units. You know, it's like this. You have the president of the entire country, and then you have prime minister, you have ministers, you have the panchayat, all the different level of politicians and so on. Does the president look into whether you get water at home or no? He is not bothered about that, right? So same way, these organelles are assigned certain kind of a work, and cell is, you can consider it more at an advanced level, who will look into it. Or another example would be in a school, you will have your class monitors, and then you have your leaders, and then you have the head boy or head girl. So everyone, the class discipline that is needs to be maintained is checked by the monitors. Same way, some work that needs to be done in the cell are looked by the organelles. The entire cell doesn't work into it. The organelles will do a certain kind of a job. Each cell organelle performs a special function, just what I've told you now. All cells have the same organelles irrespective of their function and which organism they are found in. Okay, so a cell has different kinds of organelles, and these organelles are same. Okay, then cell membrane or plasma membrane. So what is this? It is the outermost covering of the cell, separates the contents, cell and the external environment. Simple example, you stay in a house, and leaving a little distance you will have your boundary wall, right? Boundary wall. Just like that. Now, why is that boundary wall required? Is it really required? Or you can just today, destroy it in the evening because you just don't want to do anything? No. You want that wall to tell, Baba, this place is mine. This property belongs to me, and whatever is outside that boundary wall is someone else's. Right? So, same way, the cell wall, or you can say cell membrane or plasma membrane, is nothing but a kind of a boundary which tells, okay, these are the contents of the cell, and whatever is outside is the external environment. Entry and exit of materials, okay, in the cell prevents the movement other materials selectively permeable membrane. So now whenever you have this boundary wall and you want to go maybe out to do some shopping, or you just want to go somewhere out, how do you go? No, you don't jump off the wall and then go, right? You use the gate. So just like that, in the cell, the entire membrane that is there is, you can imagine it as a gate. It is selectively permeable membrane. That means it allows entry and exit of different materials. Okay, now when you consume food, all the digested food is required by the cells, right? Then only they will be able to work. So how is this possible? Selectively permeable membrane. So all this movement from in and out is happening through this selectively permeable membrane. The plasma membrane is flexible and is made up of organic molecules like proteins and lipids. Very important with respect to your exams. This can be asked for, fill in the blanks. So the plasma membrane is made up of proteins and lipids. Just remember this much. Now, let us look at this simple figure. I have, a very funny looking image of a cell, and then I have a glass of water. Now what are we trying to understand? We are trying to look at the cell, okay, with the wall as an one small structure, and the water will consider as an external environment. Okay, so what happens when there is water in the external environment? Please watch carefully. Okay, so the cell, the water which was around the cell, based on that, the cell has gained a lot of water and it is bloated, it has become big. So when the surrounding has more water concentration than the cell will gain water and grow in size and is called hypotonic solution. Okay, please remember this can be asked for difference between not just this one but the next one also. So can be asked as a normal question as well, what is the meaning of hypotonic solution? You just have to remember when the surrounding water concentration is more and then the cell takes up that water and swells up, it becomes bigger in size, then that kind of a solution will be called as hypotonic solution. Okay, now another cell, water, again the cell goes inside the water and the cell is of the same size. So when the surrounding has equal amount of water concentration like the cell, so the amount of water concentration inside the cell and outside the cell is same. Okay, the cell will remain same in size, right? Because there is no flow of net flow of movement is nothing, because whatever the water is there inside and outside is the same. That's the time these kind of cells are called as isotonic solution. Okay, so we have learnt hypotonic and we have learnt isotonic. I have another cell and if it's in the water and then the cell becomes smaller in size. So what happens when the surrounding has less water concentration than the cell? That means the surrounding environment has lesser water concentration and the cell has more water concentration. Okay, so what will happen? The cell will start giving out that water through that selectively permeable membrane which I have already told you, and then it will lose that water. So the cell will shrink. So this will be called as hypertonic solution. So I hope you are able to understand that is how the movement of a material in the cell takes place. Okay, so when the surrounding water is more, it enters into the cell swells up, and then once the concentration is equal, it will remain constant, it becomes isotonic, and when it doesn't want, and it will give out that water and it will become hypertonic. Please remember the hypertonic and hypotonic. Okay, so let us go ahead and understand what is the meaning of diffusion and osmosis. This is the last part that I want to deal with for today in this video. And the word diffusion, we have already studied it in matter in our surroundings as well. Both the solvent and the solute particles are free to move. When there is that intermixing that I was talking about is happening, it is called as diffusion. In osmosis, only the solvent molecules, which are the water molecules, cross the membrane. So in osmosis, only the water molecules are crossing. In diffusion, there is just a direct intermixing. It's the difference between diffusion and osmosis. Unicellular freshwater organisms, I've already told you what are unicellular organisms are. Most plant cells tend to gain water through osmosis. So everyone gains water through osmosis? No. Single cellular organism and most of the plant cells, they consume water through osmosis. Absorption of water by plants in roots. So in the roots of the plant, this process takes place, and that is osmosis. So if you want to read a little bit more about osmosis, no harm, you can check out your textbook, or you can just Google osmosis. You will be bombarded with a lot of information. I hope you have understood today's class. If you did, then please don't forget to hit the like button. Share this video with your friends so they also can know what is the meaning of fundamental unit of life. Till then, take care and be safe. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.